Thank you for joining us on the weekend edition of National Focus. I'm Mervin. In the headlines, the Ministry of Health declares the Chikungunya epidemic officially over. Japan funds a grassroots project to improve disaster management response, and we get an update on Dominica's implementation of the Climate Change Resilience Project. Details of our headline stories and more in just a moment.
DOWASCO recognizes that clean water is vital to healthy living. Therefore, it spares no effort in providing a clean, safe and reliable system. Help keep our rivers safe and clean. Do not cut trees along the river banks and do not pollute with garbage, human or animal feces and chemicals. Think water, think life.
Thank you for staying with us. Japan and Dominica have long benefited from a friendly relationship, and on Thursday that relationship grew even stronger. This time it was the Dominica Association of Local Community Authorities Inc. DALCA who was on the receiving end of a grant of 230,000 EC dollars from the government of Japan. The grant, which stems from the grant assistance from the Grassroots Human Security Project GGP, is entitled "The Project for Renovating the Hurricane Shelter and the Storm Drains in Vulnerable Communities." Two coastal villages, Fokoli and Bagatelle, will benefit from that project.
The significance of this ceremony will be better conveyed and appreciated by the residents of Fokoli and Bagatelle, who will be the primary beneficiaries of this grant funding. This partnership lends support to the government of Dominica in its quest to mainstream disaster management across the length and breadth of Dominica. And it will also assist in determining standards for emergency shelters, a program which is ongoing with the World Bank.
The project will also seek to empower the residents of the communities, build capacity among community leaders, provide short-term employment, and improve sanitation. Local Government Commissioner John Fontaine outlines what the project entails.
The output of the process is geared at retrofitting the Fokoli Community Center and the construction of a storm drain in Bagatelle. The latter is complemented by funding made available by the Global Environment Fund, GEF.
The center, which will be renovated into a hurricane shelter, currently serves a population of 1,700 people. The storm drains will bring much needed relief to the community of Bagatelle, which in the past has suffered tremendous loss of life and property due to landslides and hurricanes.
At various community forums, the residents have made it clear that the storm drain must be concreted to protect lives and property, hence the rationale for this intervention. The communities chosen for this project are well selected given their history and their vulnerability.
The Second Secretary of the Embassy of Japan, Takafumi Ura, welcomed the project and said it will only strengthen the bonds of friendship and mutual understanding which exist between the two countries.
The GGP is designed to promote human security in the world by assisting non-profit organizations. The scheme mainly targets areas that aim to improve basic human needs. Through this project, the people of Fokoli will have increased access to a safer environment as they will be able to shelter overnight during any natural disaster. Also, the community of Bagatelle can feel a stronger sense of safety with a reduced risk of landslide, since the construction of the storm drain will mitigate the effects of natural disasters. I have no doubt that this project is truly one which meets basic human needs, and we are very pleased that we can assist through the GGP.
When the shelter is complete, it will be managed by the Roseau City Council. Japan was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with Dominica in 1978. As far back as 2001, the grant assistance for Grassroots Human Security Project has been touching the lives of Dominican people. Also this news time, Dominica is well on its way to building resilience against the negative impact of climate change. In December 2013, government announced that Dominica had received $103 million from the World Bank's Climate Investment Fund to implement government's strategic program for climate resilience. That fund is part soft loan and part grant. Dominica is one of 6 nations in the region to pilot the World Bank program. This pilot program for climate resilience assists developing countries to integrate climate resilience with development planning, building on national adaptation programs of action and other existing efforts. GIS News spoke with Colin Geist, project coordinator, to get details of the project and establish Dominica's progress with implementation. Geist explained that the project will see the implementation of 4 major components, namely civil works, data management, emergency contingency response, and fourthly, the general management of the project. The civil works aspects involve the construction of 4 major and most vulnerable road networks on the island: Port-Cassé to Bois-Diab, Bois-Diab to Cassibros, Cassibros to Petit-Soufrière, and Cassibros to Hatton Garden through the Kalinago territory.
We expect under the civil works specifically to undertake some slope stabilization in areas where landslides originate or where we expect landslides to originate. We are going to stabilize the slopes. So guardrails will be constructed and erected in certain areas. There are certain areas based on after the studies are being undertaken, we would undertake the development of storm drains, because in certain areas the culverts on them are they're old and redundant. So we have to identify where they are and the size of culverts. So we would be increasing the size of culvert that would be able to accommodate larger volumes of water. Bridges will be constructed in certain areas. As I said, it's a suite of civil works, and all this activity will be determined by the pre-engineering study that's going to be undertaken.
Geist explains that the terms of reference and feasibility studies are still being developed for submission and approval by the World Bank before physical work can begin. The project coordinator also detailed the data management aspect of the project. He said the consultant was on island in January 2015 to assess Dominica's capacity to process meteorological data.
As we know in Dominica, metadata is very critical. But these activities have been undertaken by various departments, for instance, the Met Office, Agriculture, DOWASCO, Forestry, and Dominic. So we're in the process of rationalizing this activity and to develop a network, because we don't have a network in Dominica.
The consultant is expected on island again in March to present the findings and propose solutions.
The other activity on the data and data management that's critical for Dominica is what we call the LIDAR and bathymetry. That's topographic and bathymetry. Bathymetry is the coastal survey that's going to be undertaken. The consultant presently is in advanced stage of finalizing the terms of references that will engage a firm to undertake such activity. So when the bathymetry survey is being undertaken, we would have a better understanding of our coastal or nearshore coastal area and how vulnerable we are to storm surge. And this information there would assist us in doing the construction of ports and any activities along the coast. Yeah.
The third component, the emergency contingency response plan, involves creating a list of suppliers of key items that will help Dominica quickly recover after a major disaster. These items include construction equipment, building material, and medical supplies. Geist informed that the list of key items and suppliers have been identified, and the project management team is in the process of completing the list.
We decided that this is very critical for Dominica, because Dominica has been impacted on an annual basis, whether it's from hurricanes, storms, or whichever. And so this component was being made available in case there's a disaster, whether it's a natural or a national disaster. So this can be, this component can be triggered ASAP, as soon as possible, quickly. So we don't have to go through all these other processes. So we are now completing the operations manual for this component.
The project coordinator anticipates that major physical work will begin by 2016. The project, which began in August 2014, will last for 6 years. The process for attracting funding commenced with the development of a government strategic program for climate resilience. This plan, developed by the Ministry of Environment, headed by Honorable Dr. Kenneth Darrow, was presented to the World Bank in 2012. The plan serves as a blueprint to deal with climate change nationally. Honorable Darrow says the entire plan may seem costly and unnecessary, but the issue of climate change should be top priority for small island developing states like Dominica. GIS News will bring you more from that interview in a subsequent newscast. 1 year after the first reported case of Chikungunya in January 2014, the Ministry of Health and the Environment has declared the Chikungunya epidemic officially over as of January 23, 2015. In an interview with Chief Medical Officer Dr. David Johnson on Thursday, he explained that although the outbreak is over, that does not mean that there are no more cases on the island.
Basically, the World Health Organization uses a standard which indicates that after 2 maximum incubation period of a disease, if in a country there are no new cases reported, then one can officially indicate that the outbreak is effectively over. Now, however, that doesn't mean that in Dominica that chikungunya is completely eradicated. So we felt that we must clarify that. Saying that we are out from the outbreak doesn't mean by any means that there is no chikungunya in Dominica at all. What we are saying is basically we are out of the woods in terms of the outbreak. So we have not seen any new documented cases for certainly more than 42 days now.
During the outbreak, the Health Division confirmed from laboratory testing only 173 cases, which according to Dr. Johnson is quite significant. He says as a result of the assistance given to Dominica during that time, 1 year later the Ministry of Health can declare the island outbreak-free.
Some countries in the region are still grappling with combating chikungunya. I think it's because of the proactive action taken by the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, and in fact the entire Dominican population, that we're able to control the outbreak of chikungunya. We got a number of assistance from a number of other key partners, even regional partners from the Caribbean Public Health agencies and other persons, including Dr. Fish from the Yale University in the United States, which he was in Dominica assisting us in terms of our response, and as I said, the Pan American Health Organization as well, and the Caribbean Public Health Agency, which provides strategic guidance and assistance to Dominica, which is based out of Trinidad. I think because of all of these players and all the hard work of the staff of the Ministry of Health, all of the different healthcare providers, the health promotion unit, the education that we've been putting out there, and the general public, that we can announce at this stage that we are out of an outbreak of chikungunya.
The Chief Medical Officer noted that the disease spreads quickly since this was the island's first contact with chikungunya. He is nevertheless pleased that the outbreak is over.
Dominica was a virgin population, so to speak. We had no documented case of chikungunya for January 2014, and therefore when it entered Dominica, then it spread, to use a local parlance, like wildfire, because none of us had immunity to or resistance to the disease, and therefore a lot of us, in fact most of the population, persons in Dominica were susceptible to chikungunya. That is one of the reasons why it spread so fast. So we're happy that the worst is over, and we like to keep it that way.
The Commonwealth of Dominica and the People's Republic of China established diplomatic relations on March 23, 2004. Since the establishment of that relationship, Dominica has benefited in a number of areas, including education and agriculture.
In the area of human resource development, hundreds of Dominicans, both within the public and private sector, have visited the People's Republic of China and benefited from Chinese-sponsored training courses over the past 10 years. Also, approximately 130 full long-term government scholarships have been awarded by the Chinese government to Dominican nationals to pursue studies in China since the establishment of diplomatic relations in 2004. Of noteworthy attention is the development of infrastructure. And I want to single out here the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, the Dominica State House, and the Dominica State College, the new Newtown Primary School, which, as we speak, is nearing completion.
The Edward Oliver LeBlanc Highway, the Chinese Agricultural Corporation demonstration plot at 1 mile in Portsmouth, the housing project in the Kalinago territory, Chinese medical cooperation at the Princess Margaret Hospital, and support to the Dominica Police Force are all tangible evidence of the fruits born from that friendship. In 2014, both countries engaged in a host of activities to commemorate a decade of cooperation.
The hosting of a reception by the Chinese Friendship Association in Beijing, a joint reception hosted by the government of Dominica and the Embassy of China, the issuance of commemorative commemorative stamps, a documentary prepared by the Government Information Service on Dominica-China relations, and visits by high-level delegations to both countries.
The Honorable Minister for Education and Human Resource Development, Peter Seja, speaking at the Tianjin Cafe Future Children's Art Troupe performance at the Arak House of Culture on Wednesday, says this cultural exchange represented the climax of celebrations held to commemorate Dominica and China's 10 years of mutual friendship. And now for a recap of this week's headline stories, here's Tasia Floissac.
Welcome to this week's edition of Flashback. In the headlines this week, an act to amend the National Parks and Protected Areas Chapter 4202 was passed in Parliament at the first meeting of the first session of the 9th Parliament last Friday. The act will facilitate the construction of a luxury hotel resort in the Cabrits National Park, approved under the Citizenship by Investment Program. On February 24th and 25th, media personnel and spokespersons in Dominica were trained on the Caribbean single market and economy. Dominica's government, in partnership with the CARICOM Secretariat, targeted these groups of individuals for a capacity-building workshop geared at enhancing knowledge on the CSME and, in particular, the 5 regimes which give meaning to the CSME. Also this week, Honorable Parliamentary Representative for the Kalinago constituency, GIS Daru, confirmed that work on the Sensi Resource Center is over 90% complete. Honorable Daru also announced plans for road rehabilitation in that part of the constituency. At the first meeting of the first session of the 9th Parliament, Parliament approved 2 name changes for the island's indigenous people and their home. Both sides of the House consented to change the name Carib to Kalinago and the Reserve to Territory. This comes after years of dialogue among the indigenous people. The Dominica Bureau of Standards, in partnership with CrossQ, hosted a Quality Infrastructure Dialogue Forum at the Fort Young Hotel on Thursday to better inform technicians and policymakers of necessary interventions to address issues affecting quality in the agriculture and fisheries sector. The forum also contributed to the goal of Dominica's produce meeting international standards. And funds have been set aside under the Banana Accompanying Measures BAM program to undertake a major project that will not only boost production in the livestock sector, but will also increase the quality of meat produced by livestock farmers. Those were the headline stories which made the news this week. For details of each of these stories and others, visit our website or Facebook page. Let's get back to Mervin.
And that's the English news. McPherson St. Luce is next with the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à ces nouvelles en créole. Non, moi, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, travail qui prend place à ce Resource Center Sensi en pays Kalinago. Parole celle-là sur le ministre Kalinago, Honorable Cassius Darrow.
Dans nos Resource Center en Sensi, tout pour l'école là, il a créé des Salibia New Primary School. Ce sont belles facilités, c'est l'école qui c'est très nouveau. Avec opposite les noms en Resource Center. Moi je hope nous répondre nos Kalinago pour aussi. Mais Resource Center ça là qui fini tout de suite. Peut-être en 2-3 mois encore. Aussi, nous avons fait un contrat ici avec Public Works. Puis ça fait chimie à passer par Day Resource Center qui a coûté $139,000 and $139,194.97 moi so chimé ça moi crois qu'il a livré place là en Saint-Cy. I mean il a fait place là bon tout le monde parce que tu Resource Center ça là quoi un côté là il y a une bagaille pour kindergarten quoi une conference room quoi une différents office en dedans il fait nous fait conti community information center en là aussi. So là vous passez pour visiter pour apprendre information ça va prendre place en Kalinago territory.
Une nouvelle organisation gouvernement local d'Alca recevait un grant de Japan pour bâtir projet mitigation en Dominique. Présentation là prend place pendant une cérémonie à Barracoon Building à Jerry. Chairman d'Alca, Yolan John Jules, fait parole comment l'argent là qui est dépensé.
Après-midi là, c'est un gros après-midi pour l'association local gouvernement Dominique. Nous sortis signer un agreement avec le gouvernement à Japan. Ça c'est un ambassadeur qui est en Trinidad et Tobago pour aider nous avec l'argent pour ranger Resource Center Foncolé. Resource Center là, c'est là il y a une post office là, c'est là il y a une center là pour communauté là, c'est là il y a un shelter pour hurricane. Et bien ça c'est un projet qui est bien important pour mon Foncolé. L'autre projet là, nous si après-midi là, c'est pour un drain en Bacatel. Où savent Bacatel c'est une place qui a autant problème en temps longtemps. Moun ja mort, moun ja blessé, en tefale qui fait là. Et bien nous allons nous garder drain là ça et bien nous manger pour élever ces gens là en place là parce que ils sont place qui bien dangereux mais vers dans là nous que fait là il que gêner l'eau descendre vers laver en bas parce qu'il ka barrer l'eau là en mi-temps et ben il peut ça descendre en bas pour défaler casa moun et mettre moun en problème encore comme ça nous bien content Japan aider nous à dans ces instances là ça.
En d'autres nouvelles, le ministre de l'Agriculture qui a commencé le cycle pour l'occasion qui affecte et puis Black Sigatoka. Parole ça là sorti de officier quarantine Ryan Ansem.
Comme vous savez, nous avons $300 la gouvernement ba nous pour nous spray plus d'huile. So quand nous parlé là, nous mettre bité en place pour nous faire un cycle chimical comme ça. Moi qui passe, nous faisons un cycle spray. Et nous allons faire un spray cycle semaine ça là qui a commencé. Si pas semaine ça là, semaine qui a venu bien bon, nous allons commencer l'autre cycle spray. So nous ouais on improvement comment nous ka faire spray cycle là mais nous les planter et nous passer tout en Dominique nous ka ouais c'est planter pas qu'à faire dilifin là yo ni weeds nous yo tirer toutes ces herbes là ces bagages ça là c'est ça qui est un des programmes là nous les tout le monde venir ensemble pour nous regarder comment nous ka goumer pour Black Sikatoka.
Et puis finalement, plaisir bagaille qui a concerné qu'on guide comme single market and economy. Parole celle-là qu'a sorti ambassadeur CARICOM et puis OECS, His Excellency Félix Grégoire.
Si c'est un business qui est établi, on est pour faire, parce que tout pays est habité, on est pour faire, pour établir business. So, là, on fait tout ça, on peut vivre avec ça, indefinite stay. Ça mean là forever. So c'est vite ça nous les mettons en place pour moun Dominique allant dans l'autre pays. Nous que les moun savent c'est vite ça là parce que ça c'est vite ça est important.
Messieurs mesdames, ça c'est tout pour nouvelle en créole pour à présent. Non moi c'est McPherson St. Louis. Ni un bon week-end. Au revoir.
Coming up next, your tip of the day.
If you can believe this, why can't you believe this?
Uncle tried to make me have sex.
Some mothers don't believe their own children when they say they've been sexually abused, and they don't report it. Remember, if anyone asks to see or touch their private parts, touches them inappropriately, shows them or forces them to touch one's private parts, has sex with them, shows them pornographic material, or deliberately lets them hear or see the act of sex, then it is sexual abuse. Believe your child and report the sexual abuse. For more information about child abuse, contact these agencies. This message brought to you by UNICEF and this station.
Alcohol causes a number of impairments that lead to car accidents. Even at low blood alcohol levels, intoxication reduces reaction time and coordination and lowers inhibitions, which can cause drivers to make foolish choices. At higher levels, alcohol causes blurred or double vision and even loss of consciousness. It's easy to avoid driving drunk. If you've been drinking, ask a sober friend for a ride. If you're planning to drink, make sure you have a designated driver. The mild inconvenience of taking a taxi home is nothing compared to the disastrous consequences of driving drunk. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We always welcome your suggestions and comments. Drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website at news.gov.dm. Like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at GIS Dominica. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I'm Mervin. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.